We'll give it about one more minute before we dive into some really great conversations that I'm looking forward to this afternoon. Okay, I do have 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my end, so we are going to get started. In respect of your time, I would love to begin. Today's webinar is titled Worthy Disruptions, Access for All. So if you were interested in learning more about what is a worthy disruption, what is access, what's the difference between equality, equity, and access, you are in the right place. My name is Precious Miller. I am the Director of Basic Needs and Belonging with Michigan Community College Association. It is really, truly a privilege and an honor to be with all of you today. Today's webinar is going to be recorded for your future reference to refer back to, as well as to share out with any colleagues on your campus. And I see I'm also joined by some of my colleagues at MCCA. Hello, everyone. In addition to some great speakers that are going to be sharing their time with us today. So I'll dive into a brief overview of how we're going to spend a very ambitious afternoon together today. We have about 1 hour to get through some welcome and introductions. We're also going to be joined by Dr. Erica Oriens with the Data Minute, along with identifying ways that each individual on a community college campus and beyond can cultivate an inclusive and accessible environment. And this is something you can do exactly where you are. We're also going to be joined and hear from Christina Marshall, Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice at Oakland Community College. And I am thrilled for you all to hear about the amazing things happening at OCC. And then we're going to conclude our hour together today by moving from knowledge to action, recognizing that today is just one conversation in all of our journeys to be equity champions and avengers. So what can we do to take the knowledge that we are exposed to today and move it into action? What does it look like to put this information into practice after our hour together? And then we'll talk about what's next. In the previous slide, we talked about this being one webinar that exists within a series of sessions that are going to take place over the course of the year. And so we'll end talking about the other topics that will be included in the Sense of Belonging webinar series for 2024. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get started with our very first energizer in the chat section. So in the chat, if you have the ability to navigate to the chat, please share a recent topic that you might have explored over the last 24 hours, over the last week, maybe even over the last month. I have some listed examples here on the slide. Your example could consist of something you recently learned about as it pertains to a proper exercise technique. Maybe you finally figured out the proper technique to do a deadlift or a full burpee. Maybe something you've explored are the origins of hip hop back in the 1970s from the Bronx in New York. Or perhaps you are like me and have begun to explore the history behind barbershops in the Black community and how integral they were for a lot of Black communities. And then maybe you have a youngster in your life who is an enjoyer of Minecraft. Maybe there are some Minecraft characters that you are recently learning about. So go ahead and in the comment section, if you feel comfortable sharing a recent topic you've explored recently, you can go ahead and do that. And if you are feeling very brave to share, you can also go off mute and share something that you've recently learned about. I'll share something that I'm learning. It's my son. I have two boys at home, ages 8 and 3, and my oldest is definitely a Minecraft enthusiast, and he was telling me how to use the controllers on an Xbox. I know, I'm a little late to the game. I'm still trying to get a handle on how to use the controller, but he was actually a really good teacher and very patient with me as he taught me how to yield different things from the inventory of items I can select to participate in the game. There are a couple of things that came in through the chat. Someone shared, my colleagues recently shared with us the end of life and funeral practices in different religions and cultures. Someone else mentioned a student recently was informing me about the linguistic similarities and differences between Scandinavian languages. That sounds really interesting. Someone else wrote, thanks to Precious, I recently explored and learned about microaggressions and covering. Yeah. And there's an additional chat that came through. Office of Retirement Services, what if scenarios? Ooh. That sounds like a really great conversation. Thank you all for sharing in the comments. The reason why I wanted to open up with this question or this engagement opportunity is because it really hints at the capacity that we all have to be able to learn something new. And being able to identify something that we've recently learned tells this part in our brain called the reticular activating system that, you know what, there is evidence to prove that I can learn something new. And so perhaps there's something that you're going to explore today that may be new information to you. Perhaps you may feel empowered and comfortable to share something that you may know that may be new information to others on our webinar call today. I'd like to empower you all to feel comfortable sharing if you feel inclined to. Either share something that you are learning as we go throughout our time together, or something that you would like to expose other individuals to, so we can all cultivate a growth mindset together and learn in our virtual space. So, worthy disruptions. This could be a title that provokes some different or various emotions. And so I just wanted to do a quick level set so that we are all on the same page about what it is that we mean when we say worthy disruptions. Worthy disruptions can be defined as the action of completely changing the traditional way that an industry or market operates by using new methods or technology. I think some of us can agree that COVID-19 was a significant disruption to a way that we did a lot of things. I had to renew my license recently, and I went to Meijer to do that. They had a kiosk there that allowed me to renew my license. And that was a new development as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was COVID-19 as a pandemic was a disruption to a lot of things. Disruptions can also be classified as the action of preventing something, especially a system, process, or event, from continuing as usual or as expected. And I added this little caveat at the end that reads, for the betterment and advancement of the system, process, or event. Worthy disruptions are things that we can encourage. It allows us to reassess or reevaluate how we may be doing something for the betterment of or the advancement of the system, process, or event. And I believe that that is something that would cause a disruption to be worthy. So I was on my way to the public library, as my sons and I frequent the library often, and I was walking past our city hall. On the screen here, there's an image of the city hall, and it's a picture of the city hall that includes steps leading up to the building, that also includes 3 different doorways that patrons can enter. And at first glance, you know, a couple years ago, I would think nothing of it. But I can't unlearn what I've learned about access. And so when I saw this building recently, I realized that this is not an accessible building to every person in the city of Kalamazoo. Because if I have a stroller, or if I have, if I am using a wheelchair, if I'm a wheelchair user, it is going to be very difficult for me to get up those stairs and enter the 3 doors. And I would imagine those doors are pretty heavy. In the small corner of this picture here, underneath what looks like it could be a pillar, is a small handicap sign that hints at there being an alternative entrance to this building. But where is that entrance? How do I get to that entrance? Is the alternative way accessible to me? These are questions that I have posed to the city commissioner, because I believe that there should be some worthy disruptions to how patrons can access this building. So another way to look at equality, equity, and access would be demonstrated in these various images here. On the left side, we see 3 individuals who are standing in front of a fence, and they are trying to view an athletic game on the other side of the fence. Equality would say all we need to do is give all 3 of these individuals a box. It can be the same box and everyone will be able to see the game. Equality is about everyone having an equal opportunity, the very same opportunity or the very same box to access or to view the game. But in the image, we see that not everyone can see the game taking place. Equity is the next picture in the middle, and it illustrates 3 individuals who are also looking to view an athletic game. One individual has no box because they are at a height that allows them to see over the fence. The individual in the middle has 1 box because that's all they would need to meet the height requirement to see the game. And then the third individual is standing on 2 boxes, allowing them to also see the same game. Equity recognizes that all of us are going to come to this game with various needs and different demographics that may limit us from seeing the game if we don't have the resources that we need in order to see it. So the boxes are going to vary so that everyone can have an equitable view to the game taking place. And then the final image on the right side, which is where I'm hoping we'll be able to get to at the end of our conversation today and beyond, is recognizing that regardless of an individual's ability, regardless of an individual's height, background, age, everyone can have access to the game. And in this image, we see all individuals being able to access the game because they have access to the resource that best meets their needs. The individual on the far right of the far right image has a ramp access to be able to view the game as their wheelchair user. The person in the middle has 3 boxes to view the game, but they also have glasses so that they can adequately see the game as well. And so I just wanted to share this illustration of the difference of equality, equity, and access in terms of why it can be so helpful to make worthy disruptions in our spheres of influence. There are a number of students who are occupying our learning spaces who have disabilities, and these individuals may not all have access to a higher education. There is reason for some worthy disruptions, and I'm going to invite Erica Oriens to share with us a data minute on the students who have disabilities who are also accessing our spaces so that we can be more empowered and knowledgeable about the students that we're serving and making worthy disruptions for. Thanks, Erica.
Great, thank you, Precious. Do you mind if I share my screen? Nope, yep, you knew I was gonna say that. All right, good morning or good afternoon, like you said, Precious, everyone. My name is Erica Oriens, and I am the Vice President of the Michigan Community College Association. We have, in many of our meetings, we do a data minute to really kind of ground the work that we're doing in evidence-based practices and in data. And Precious asked me to share with you a data resource that we released last year that could really contribute to this conversation statewide and also on your campuses. I am going to actually, sorry, hold on just one second. I am going to share my screen and share my sound, and I'm going to show you a video of a new data dashboard that we created, and I'll show you a little demonstration of that as well in just a moment. as Precious said, to share with you some data on college access among students who were identified with disabilities when they were in high school. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. Precious, if you could give me a thumbs up if you can hear it when I get it started.
With just under 53% of Michigan's high school graduating class of 2022 attending college within 6 months of high school graduation, there is significant opportunity to build back college enrollments in Michigan. To support colleges in these efforts, the Michigan Center for Student Success collaborated with John Fink from the Community College Research Center to create the College Access Dashboard. The dashboard leverages data from the Center for Educational Performance and Information at myschooldata.org to provide a statewide context on college access among high school graduates. Colleges can dive into detailed data about their own institutions and ISDs and high schools across the state of Michigan. Data are disaggregated by student demographics, including race and ethnicity, gender, economically disadvantaged, English learners, and students with disabilities. The dashboard also shares detailed information about students who attended your community college and every other community college, public university, and independent institution in the state of Michigan and across the country. Access the dashboard from the MCCA website and download the inquiry guide to facilitate conversations at your institution or with your partners in K-12 education. With just under 53% of
Okay, so that's a little video that we prepared that gives you an overview of the dashboard that we've created. The inquiry guide that I referenced in the video is available right here on this website as well. And I think Precious will be able to put the link to that in the chat. And what I'd like to do now is click on the link here that goes out to the dashboard and give you a little tour of what this looks like and how this can be helpful to you. The dashboard that you see here is the same landing page in the video. At the top here, there are 4 tabs for statewide context, explore by county, internal college planning, and college K-12 planning. And those will make sense if you look at the inquiry guide. You can see here that we're reporting data on the high school to college transition. So among the approximately just under 100,000 students who graduated from a Michigan high school in 2022-23, so this would be the students who graduated about 9 months ago, we can see here that about 53% of those students enrolled in any college within 6 months of high school graduation. So what we're looking at here is the college going rate of high school graduates. These data are available going all the way back to 2013. As you can see here, we've disaggregated it by county, and you can actually look on the college K-12 planning dashboard at specific school districts and schools within that school district. So it's very rich data. These data have been collected by the state of Michigan for 10 years, but we took the data and put it in a dashboard to make it a little bit more useful for colleges to plan. What Precious asked me to show you today that I want to take a closer look at is the ability to drill down into various different subgroups. The group that I want to look at today is, instead of looking at all students, I'm going to scroll down here and click students with disabilities. When I do that, you will see that the dashboard updates throughout the different tables that we have here. You may remember that 53% of all high school students who graduated enrolled in college, either a community college, public university, or independent college inside or outside of Michigan. So really anywhere in the country. When we drill down into students with disabilities, we can see that only 25% of students who had been identified in K-12 as students with disabilities enrolled in any college within 6 months of high school graduation. And that included, and we can see the numbers over here, there were 8,572 students, and 2,116 of those students enrolled in any college. You can actually really drill down into this in a lot more detail. Right here, I can hover over specific counties and you can see the differences by county. I can see here that I live in Kent County and only 13% of high school students who graduated, students with disabilities who graduated enrolled in any college. And I can scroll over here at the high end to Washtenaw County, where 38% of students with disabilities enrolled in college. You'll also notice on here, because to make sure that the state does not identify small numbers of students, there are, for those of you who are in rural areas, it's harder to get access to this data because there are not enough students to be able to report the data statewide. But if you are in one of those counties or districts where you'd like more detailed information, I may be able to help you get access to that as well. You'll also notice down here at the bottom that we report the data that we've selected here by, you're able to compare that by gender and also by different subgroups as well. So I'm sure all of you have stopped listening to me by now and have already navigated to the website and started looking at your own data for your own institution. I've given this presentation enough to know that's what everybody typically does. But I hope this is helpful for you as you're thinking about worthy disruptions on your campuses. So Precious, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate the overview, especially making it user-friendly is one thing I really appreciate about the data enrollment tool. So I hope that those on the call also find that to be useful for them. As I'm navigating back to share my screen, there were a couple of comments that came through the chat in regards to how we're looking at and defining disability. Great question. We are looking at disability as how it is defined by the ADA, which is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits major life activities, has a record of such an impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. But I also want to note that disability is also diversity, it's also pride, it's also culture. And at any moment, I could experience or have a disability. And so it doesn't discriminate from anyone. And it making worthy disruptions to make sure that everyone has access can benefit those of us, whether we have a disability or not. So as we continue on our conversation today, I wanted to talk about ableism, because in a lot of ways, ableism is the undertone that is the unknown factor that prevents us from being able to see things from the vantage point of someone with a disability. I don't identify as a person with a disability. And a lot of the disability movement is about nothing about us without us. Seeing as I don't have that specific perspective, one perspective that I can share and one perspective that I do have is that of an able-bodied person. And ableism is defined as the systemic oppression, mistreatment, and marginalization of people with disabilities. It's discrimination in favor of the non-disabled and is rooted in the perception that people with disabilities are not the same. I'd like to also preface that ableism is not often intentional. A lot of people who are working to be better advocates for individuals with disabilities unintentionally may do things or say things that can be hurtful or harmful, but it's not intentional. There's also a difference between intention and impact. I may not intend to be hurtful or harmful, but the impact of my actions or my thoughts or my beliefs and perceptions could be hurtful to others. And so that's what we are hoping to veer in the vein of being advocates for those with disabilities and minimizing some of our ableist perspective, beliefs, and thoughts and processes. So ableism on a personal level consists of values, beliefs, assumptions, and feelings about those with a disability. Personal ableism creates an unwelcome environment. I'd also like to state that buildings don't have feelings. Systems may not have feelings, but the systems and buildings consist of individuals who have beliefs, assumptions, and feelings. And sometimes those values or their beliefs can come out in personal levels. People with a disability, in some beliefs, is that they should be feared, pitied, taken care of, and have a poor quality of life. But these are misconceptions and untruths about individuals with disabilities. People with disabilities are, like a lot of us on this call, positive, energetic, are caring and kind individuals, and want to have the best intentions of doing the best with the skill sets that we have. Ableism on an interpersonal level consists of actions, behaviors, and language. And oftentimes these are the ways in which we see ableism because it's externally facing. Ableism on an interpersonal level includes not addressing the person with the disability, but the people that they may be with. Oftentimes this can be seen with a person who may be using an ASL, an American Sign Language interpreter. So addressing the sign language interpreter and not the individual that you are having a conversation with could be interpersonal level example of ableism. Assuming a person with a visible disability needs assistance is also another unintentional yet interpersonal level of ableism. In addition to telling someone to just have a positive attitude, I have actively seen this in place of someone who has who's a wheelchair user. Someone was just saying, you know, have a positive attitude on the outlook of your life. But it was disheartening to hear because a positive attitude isn't going to make a ramp appear outside of City Hall. Having a positive attitude isn't going to make an escalator work when it's damaged. Another example of ableism on an interpersonal level is to tell someone to not let their fill in the blank define them. So things that we can do, seeing as we are individuals that make up some of these spaces, is to have neutral language. And here are some examples of neutral language. A lot of this was pulled in partnership with the Disability Network of Southwest Michigan. And they offer free webinars and lessons for community-based organizations, community colleges in the area and beyond. And their sharing of the neutral languages where this is pulled from. So on the left column, it has words or phrases that show a negative view of people with disabilities. And on the right, it shows what we say to model language that is neutral and non-judgmental of individuals that we may be engaging with. So saying things, using the language person with a disability or a disabled person is neutral and non-judgmental language. Saying accessible parking or accessible bathrooms is another example. Person without a disability or non-disabled person, using or stating wheelchair user or uses a wheelchair. That's wild is also a neutral language. The offside of that is saying something is crazy or insane. But individuals who have mental disabilities or differences are not keen to that language. It has a negative history to it. So replacing that language with that's wild. Using accommodations instead of a special accommodations is neutral language. And then just stating disability would be neutral and non-judgmental language. So the impact of using inclusive language is it fosters a culture of inclusion. It also promotes equal opportunities, enhances accessibility, encourages positive interactions with all individuals, It also reduces stigma and negative stereotypes towards individuals with disabilities and builds positive and hopefully long-lasting relationships. So now we're going to hear from Christina Marshall, Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice at Oakland Community College. Christina is the inaugural Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice at Oakland Community College. She has many years of training, professional development, administration, and teaching experience. She is a national speaker and consultant. Christina Marshall possesses a unique understanding of the challenges facing organizations, administrators, educators, and students. Her straightforward, common sense approach and practical strategies address improving dialogue, interaction, and understanding among staff and administration. Marshall speaks from personal classroom and consulting experience. Her work has focused on building communities and helping to support inclusive classrooms and workspaces. Marshall currently serves in a variety of national diversity leadership roles, including serving as the current chair of the National Advisory Council for the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity in Higher Education, and member of the membership committee of the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education. Marshall also serves as a board member, Voices for Children, board chair of New Pathways Incorporated, and is a member of the Auburn Hills Chamber of Commerce Innovations Council. Marshall is the recipient of numerous honors and awards, including Crain's 2021 Notable Executives in DEI. Christina, thank you so much for your time and for sharing today.
Thank you so much, Precious, for having me today. I am very excited to share what we're doing at Oakland Community College. So I'm going to share my screen when I have permission to do so. And I only have a few moments, so I'm going to give you some highlights of what we're doing at OCC that I'm sure all of you can do as well at your campuses. So I'm going to first start with, at OCC, we have an Accessibility Advisory Committee. And the purpose of the Accessibility Advisory Committee is to assist the Office of DEIJ in promoting a welcoming and inclusive environment for people with disabilities and in promoting students' equal access to learning, to be able to participate, and to contribute to our community. The charge of this committee is to foster collaboration across all divisions, departments, and units. I can proudly say we do have someone from each of our divisions at OCC, from our executive council to academics, to HR, student services, facilities, etc. So we do have a large range of individuals who serve on this committee. Because the entire institution, this is the job of the entire institution, not one particular department. We also identify and train others in different opportunities, and we ensure key administrators are informed of all the emerging things related to disabilities. In our access office, that is our disabilities office. We call it our access office. I do have the link on here. But due to time, I'm not going to go through all of these items with you, but I do believe they will probably share these slides with you. But a couple of things I wanted to highlight are some of our internal partnerships through our access office. Our access employees work with our admissions, and we now actually have on our admissions application a line that asks applicants if they would like to learn more about disability services. Once they click on that, that will go directly to, they will get an email with contact information from our access office. So that is one small line item on there, but we have gotten so many individuals who click on that just by having that on our application. Our access department also sends someone during their presentation. So as they go out do recruiting, go to high schools, etc. We also have someone from our Access office, so they're able to answer those questions right then and there. Our Access office also works with several community resource partnerships. As you can see on this slide, we work with several individuals, again, providing that wraparound services for our students. We also have a page on our HR site specific for our employees. So when we think about accessibility, we want to make sure that accessibility reaches the entire institution. So that is, what do we do for our students, but also what do we do for our colleagues and our employees? So we have a page dedicated to that. Don't get so excited. I'm so excited to tell you about everything. I'm just hitting buttons. Also, what do we do for our faculty? We do have resources available for creating accessible content. So the first line on here is important, right? Instructors are responsible for creating accessible content, but help is available because not everyone may know how to do that, but it is the responsibility of our instructors. So we have a ATG department, which actually helps in supporting our faculty as well as other individuals. And we also have workshops that are done through our Teaching and Learning Center. So these are just some of the items that we offer for our faculty to help with. We also have an accessibility page. I am going to pull up the accessibility page because I do think that that is important for us to look at. So we have a page where everyone can find things all related to accessibility. So whether you're looking from a student's perspective, an employee's perspective, as you can see, all of these items are here. But one of the things that I think that we're really proud of is the fact that we do have a page that's specific to events and meeting planning. So as people are thinking about meetings and as they're thinking about planning events, here are some items to help, as well as contact information, because that's always important as well. Like, where do I go if I need some further assistance? But then we have a checklist down at the bottom to get, again, to help people think about what is it that I need to think about as I plan this meeting. And this page is printable. In addition to our accessibility page, we also have campus maps. So I am going to spend a few moments on campus maps. So we use Maze Maps. So when you come to our site and you go to our different campus locations, because we do have multiple locations at OCC, you can come down to any one of these, and where it says wayfinding, this is an interactive map. So I am going to spend a couple moments on this map. So this is our Auburn Hills campus. So if anyone can get this from our website. So here's our Auburn Hills campus. And let's just say that we had a class in the C building. So you can click on the C building. And as you can see over here on the side, over to the left-hand side, let's say we're going to be in the second floor of the C building. Here here's one of our parking lots. So let's just say we're going to go to C 217 where our class is. And we're going to come from the parking lot. I told you I get excited with clicking too much. So you're going to click on the building that you need, and we're going to go to the reserved parking. This actually provides you with a map to get you to this location. Now, if you look over here, very, very small, it says avoid stairs and obstacles. This route will actually get you there without any stairs or obstacles. However, if you take this away, you'll see that you can get, but if you go this way, you'll notice that you'll have to go upstairs. So if you're showing this to someone, so let's just say we're going to do this without the stairs and I want to share this with you. Let's say I want to share this with all of you. I can go here, I can click the share and I can email this to you, but I'm going to do this for you. If you would take your phones out briefly, and if you could use this QR code. And once you get in the QR code, if you continue to push next, 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 it will give you a 3D of how you're actually walking to the campus from your phone. And you can change it. This helps not only our students, our employees, and our community members be able to navigate through our campuses. And you can also send it to them. The other thing that this allows us to do, and so you can also see here where it will tell you 319 feet to get to enter the building, etc. Also by bike, by car, etc. So as you're sending people as we send people to our campus, we can provide them with clear directions. The other item that this allows us to do, so you can also see here on this map where everything is located. So all you do is click on the building that you want, click in the classroom, etc. But the other thing I want to take a moment to show you is, let's say, for example, we wanted reserved parking, because we know that that's no longer called handicap. The state of Michigan also actually calls it reserved parking, with the wheelchair looking like it is in a forward mobility. You can actually click on that item and all these blue dots show us where all of the reserved parking is. So you can see everywhere on the campus. If you're looking for the library, you can do that. If you're looking for gender neutral restrooms, whatever it is that you're looking for. Also, if you don't know where public safety is and you need public safety, you can click on this and find our public safety as well. So we really enjoy looking at this interactive map. It allows us really to give great direction, not only for our students, but our employees, as well as our community members.
Christina, there was a question that came in
Yeah.
through the chat.
Oh, absolutely.
For individuals who have a visual disability, how can they interact with the map?
The interaction is also, we have what is it called? I can't remember the terminology. I'll get back with you on the terminology, but basically where you can hear where you're going as well.
There's an
It has an
auditory
audio
component.
component.
Got it.
All right. So just a couple other things that I wanted to point out is American Sign Language, as we all know, has played a vital role in shaping accessibility and breaking down barriers. So we also do many things related to our deaf and hard of hearing community. One of the things that's not on here that I'm very proud of is we do ensure that people are using microphones. So as we have meetings, we make sure that people are using microphones, and we remind each other with gentle reminders when we're in spaces. We also have a series called Learn ASL, and that's for our employees. So our employees can actually take 2 different sessions and learn some basic ASL. Since we do have on every single last one of our campus deaf and hard of hearing employees as well as students, we want to make sure that everyone is included. We also have done training with our public safety officers, specific to emergency situations. What do we do in emergency situations and non-emergency situations? The other thing is we also offer events that are geared. Not everyone can attend, of course, because we are an inclusive environment, but we do have activities, professional development that are specifically geared towards our deaf and hard of hearing communities. And we're really proud of those items. And those events that we host, again, not only are for our internal community, but also our external community as well. We also offer professional development at OCC. We have accessibility empowerment days. So we offer an accessibility empowerment day every academic year, and that is to help educate our campus community on accessibility. So the first year we did all of the things at our institution that we do to promote accessibility and what each department offers. A lot of times we don't know what each other offers within our institutions, especially those larger institutions. So we spent time doing that. We also, this past year, offered understanding disability as it relates to ableism and ableist language, and also providing scenarios. Like, here's some scenarios that may happen throughout campus, and what would we do in those scenarios? We had an autism summit, which was very popular, provided information for individuals. And when we do these professional development series, they're really for all employees at the institution. So we have things that are related to the academic side of the house and things that are not related to the academic side of the house as well. And then we also have a Words Matter series. And in our Words Matter series, one of those sessions is on ableist language. So again, informing our community what ableist language is and what we can do to make sure that we are not engaged in ableist language. So I just wanted to leave everyone with this. The college provides access while our students and our employees provide the success. Thank you so much for your time.
Wow. Fantastic, Christina. I especially appreciated the way in which you shared the interactive college map and gave us an opportunity to engage with it as well. And it sounds like OCC really does have a proactive, strategic, and inclusive strategy to make sure that every employee, regardless of their department or their role, has the information and the tools and access to additional knowledge to make sure everyone at the campus can create that accessible experience for students. So I really appreciate you sharing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah. Are there any questions that we may have to share with Christina before we segue into the next portion of our conversation today?
Quick question. First of all, hi, Christina. Great to see you and hear
Hi,
you.
Jennifer.
But the other thing I was going to ask is, you mentioned who did the maps for you, and I didn't get that down. Who was that?
Maze, M-A-Z-E, Maps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.
So, worthy disruptions, really, is it something that we need to be advocates for? If it hasn't, listening to Christina's remarks really nailed for me that it doesn't matter what your level of ability or disability is. It has been built into the system of OCC that however it is that you navigate and experience the world, there are systems already in place, already set aside and designed to make sure that you are included and have the access that you need to engage. So yes, worthy disruptions are worth it. Some things that we've heard is that people are just too sensitive, or it's all about political correctness. But it's about making sure that people have the information and tools and resources that they need to fully engage and to fully participate, because it is going to take all of us, our collective diversity in thought, experience, and ability to create the inclusive environments that we would like to see. Some people have also said that it's not that big of a deal, or people are just getting soft. But my counteracting statement is that I think people are just more aware and self-reflective on how our intentions create impacts in the environments in which we do our work and our life. So things that we can do to continue to create inclusive and accessible environments is to first begin at the beginning. So thinking about our inclusive recruitment efforts to enhance our recruitment for potential students with disabilities. Reaching out and connecting with students with disabilities is also another strategy to begin at the beginning and ensure that, you know, recruitment materials contain information about how one can ask for accommodations both before and after college admission. Another thing that we can do is make sure that there's access to accommodations and assessing where in which this information is being shared and how that information may be interacted with based on a student's experience, and just considering how we can reevaluate how we're sharing that information across the student journey. Connecting with free community resources is another strategy. Again, Disability Network of Southwest Michigan has been very supportive. It's a free nonprofit that offers community resources to organizations. And so consider the community-based organizations in your area that can help strong arm your endeavors. Connect personnel in offices is another strategy to inclusive and accessible environments. So how can we ensure that when students are engaging and interacting with one individual or one department, they are naturally connected and introduced to additional individuals and other departments that may be able to help them on their academic journey. Spread the word about today's webinar and things that you're learning about here and the endeavors that are happening at OCC. Adopting a standard of practice. I really appreciated Christina's highlight of faculty being responsible for making making their course accessible for their students, and making that a standard at OCC. So consider what standards could be set in place at your organization and institution, and then gather feedback. If we're serving and supporting students, it could be really helpful to get their feedback on how they're engaging with the environments that we're creating for them to be successful. So some things that you can do to move from knowledge to action as we have a few minutes left is to consider the experience of someone else to the best of your ability, assess how or think about how someone else may be engaging with your content, with your message, with what it is that you are curating at your institution. It may unveil some things that may be needing some worthy disruptions. Also consider word swapping with neutral language. Pre-plan your interactions is my favorite one. So if you have an idea of how your day is going to go, individuals that you're going to be interacting with, pre-planning some of those interactions could be helpful. And what that could look like is assessing some of the biases or misconceptions you may have about the situation or the individuals, and challenge your bias. Post-interaction reflections. So after you have an interaction or an engagement, reflect on how that interaction or engagement went, and do some self-reflection on how your engagement might have impacted someone else's experience. That could be a really great time to gather some feedback from the individual as you continue to grow to be an equity champion. Check your assumptions is another. Extended invitation to the table. A lot of us are going to be engaging and having conversations with policymakers or change agents at your institution. So looking around the table and saying who's missing, what perspective is missing from here is something else that you can do to make some worthy disruptions or move from knowledge to action today. And then the final two include team up with other individuals at your institution, and then learn and keep learning. Today is just one conversation in your journey of being an equity champion. So some things that you can do to continue learning. I've listed a book here. Being Human by Trudy Human has been a really great resource and read for me. It talks about her memoir of disability rights and being an activist. There's also a couple of links to YouTube, short videos that you can engage with. Stella Young was also really integral in the disability rights movement. And so she talks about the objectification of disability, and then purposeful steps away from ableism. There's also some podcasts that you can listen to. One notable podcast that I listed here is called The Blind Spot, Inspiring Accessibility for All. And then if you are a self-paced learner, Harvard University has some implicit bias tests about ableism and disability, and a variety of other tests to help you better understand the bias that you may be bringing to your spaces, with the preface that we all have bias, but we all also have the ability to cultivate a growth mindset. And then the final self-pacing learning opportunity is the 5 essential competencies of an effective DE&I leader. And that book or resource can be found free online, and I'll make sure all of you have access to these links and resources. So coming topics in the 2024 Sense of Belonging series are going to include conversations around the Crowns Act. So legislating the freedom that an individual can have to wear their hair in the way in which best represents them, in the way that feels comfortable for that individual. If you were unaware previously, this was not acceptable, especially in a lot of spaces in education, but the Crown Act really solidifies our stance to make sure that we are able to create spaces that everyone feels comfortable showing up in the way in which they show up. And so we'll have conversations about how this can create belonging in the workplace and for students. We'll also have some conversations about stereotypes and the intersection between stereotypes and STEM career fields, and how we should open STEM career fields open to all students, regardless of their gender, age, and race. And then another topic we'll include in this series is about cap, gown, and rights. So there's current legislation at the state of Michigan that would make sure that students can wear the graduation regalia of their choice without discrimination. So as we wait for that legislation, I would love to have some pointed conversations with our tribal colleges about what respect around regalia looks like, how they support and celebrate students in their community, and their suggestions on how all community colleges in the state of Michigan can respect the regalia rights of students. So these are topics that are forthcoming and being developed in this series. We will share the dates as we have these more ironed out. One thing that we want to do with this series is make sure that we are intentional and have the best voices in the conversation as possible. So once we have additional details about these, we will make sure that that information is shared far and wide. And with that, I'm going to end our conversation today. Again, I appreciate all of you for joining us for this great conversation about worthy disruptions. Have a great afternoon.